Hello everyone, Daniel Cote here. In this series of videos, I present some key ideas on cooperative management that I've been working on for 30 years now. In this sixth video, I look specifically at the cooperative equilibrium model and horizontal alignment. The cooperative mode of organization is unique. However, this uniqueness presents significant difficulties when we want to approach it from a management perspective. Beyond recognizing the principles and values that underpin this uniqueness, how do we develop management practices and a cooperative business model that are consistent and enable the realization of a potential that makes a difference for members and their community? To meet this challenge, I have developed a cooperative management model that I simply call cooperative equilibrium. This management approach aims to integrate the essential features of a cooperative organizational model. Briefly, what are they? First, the four distinct rules: democratic control, the link of use, the collective reserve, and the sharing of surpluses in proportion to the member's activities with his cooperative. These rules are at the heart of the cooperative logic of action and fundamentally distinguish it from private enterprise. Second, the duality of association and enterprise. This cooperative duality is a key component in the definition of what a cooperative is: an association of people, owners of an enterprise. Next, I address the key issues of values alignment and cooperative purpose, the cooperative business model, and the balanced scorecard. Finally, the environmental component, both the competitive environment and the cooperative network, are included in this model. All these elements constitute the foundations of the cooperative distinction to be integrated into a management approach. In this first video on cooperative equilibrium, I first discussed the horizontal alignment linking this association of members to their enterprise. The alignment of values and purpose, the cooperative business model, the balanced scorecard, and the external environment will be presented in the next video. But to better appreciate the importance and necessity of a distinct management approach, let's review the foundations at the origin for creating a cooperative. First, we find a group of members facing a common shared problem, who are looking for a solution to this problem, hence the creation of an enterprise, which will be oriented and controlled by themselves based on rules of equality and democracy. Hence, the importance of cohesion between the members, between the association and the enterprise, and between the enterprise and the markets, that is, the alignment of key competencies with the key success factors in a given industry. These three levels of cohesion, key components of this logic of cooperative action, illustrate what I call horizontal alignment. A few key points to remember, though: centered on the interaction of members with their environment and the desire to exercise a certain degree of control over it, the economic considerations at the heart of cooperative action reflect a different logic of action compared to private enterprise, focused on maximizing shareholder return. Members seek their benefits as users, not as investors. This is why legal ownership is subordinated to use. This primacy of the user's link is accentuated by the rules of surplus sharing in proportion to the member's activities with his cooperative. Concerted action presupposes and implies an awareness of their solidarity and an appreciation of their common needs. Members must therefore develop a closer, more sustained, and more demanding relationship with each other than with the shareholders of a private enterprise. Finally, this concerted action calls for genuine participation, mutual aid, initiative, commitment, and so on. Based on these foundations and the logic of action that flows from them, we can better appreciate the importance of such horizontal alignment as a key lever for a distinctive cooperative management approach. In such an organizational context, activating and maintaining the association enterprise duality and the levels of cohesion on which it is based requires a set of associative practices that are essential if members are to become aware of their solidarity, establish closer relationship with each other, truly participate and commit to collective action. Associative practices can be subdivided in 4 types: information, training and education, consultation, and decision-making. Beyond these, it is of interest to approach duality and cohesion from the angle of celebration. In other words, to highlight the cooperative success. For cooperative members, celebrating also means recognizing and appreciating cooperative action and its impact on their well-being and that of their communities. There are several fundamental reasons for developing and implementing these practices. They help to build and maintain the unique meaning of the relationship between members and their cooperative. Without such an understanding, the member, owner-user, runs the risk of gradually becoming a customer and no longer know how to distinguish the relationship with his cooperative from that with any private enterprise. Such associative practices are also essential for developing and maintaining cohesion between members, between the association and the enterprise, and between the enterprise and its external environment. Furthermore, with reference to the structural changes impacting associative dynamics as detailed in my first video, we must recognize the challenge of maintaining these practices in today's cooperative environment, especially when faced with a large member association. In this respect, Birchall and Simons put forward the idea that in large cooperatives, mass participation is not necessary. What is needed is a small group ready to take an interest in cooperatives' affairs, also to stand for election, and to represent the membership at large. These members can be encouraged to develop the knowledge and skills needed to sit on the board and ensure good governance. On the other hand, they also need a larger group of members who know the organization, develop loyalty and pride, understand and appreciate its distinct values, and can vote intelligently to elect their representatives. These members can become the reference group who believe in the organization's purpose and who will attend meetings and vote. Finally, they need to keep in touch with those who believe in the organization's ethos, who don't want to participate in the democratic process, but want to stay informed and occasionally express their opinion. For each of these groups, we need to adapt our associative practices to meet their needs and expectations. The starting point: ask members about their reasons for wanting to engage and participate. Then develop content that is genuinely useful, conversational, and interesting. Moreover, this concept of horizontal alignment takes on even greater strategic importance when viewed from the angle of the new cooperative paradigm and the emerging strategies described in the previous videos. As I've shown in these videos, these strategies are based on customer engagement and participation, particularly those focusing on psychological ownership and value co-creation. Although not initially developed in a cooperative context, these strategies are proving to be a lever for rethinking the strategic importance of the association enterprise duality, the cornerstone of this cooperative equilibrium, as well as the relevance of the associative practices required to ensure the development and maintenance of these 3 levels of cohesion. Also revisiting the member participation and engagement as a pillar of cooperative management. Let's briefly review these strategies and the concept of horizontal alignment at the heart of this cooperative equilibrium. First, the feeling of psychological ownership. Linked to a genuine instinct and recognized as an extension of the self, it expresses a desire for possession, stewardship, and control. The result is a feeling of autonomy and empowerment. From such a feeling emerges added value both for the member and the cooperative. As I demonstrate in my third video, psychological ownership and the foundation of cooperative organization are highly convergent. As I discovered this concept of psychological ownership, I realized that the true meaning of cooperative ownership was mainly inspired by psychological ownership, both individual and collective. Seen from a management perspective, what this model of cooperative equilibrium brings, this concept of psychological ownership can serve as a lever to develop, maintain, and reinforce horizontal alignment. While such a sense of psychological ownership, both individual and collective, is based on three sources of motivation, namely the desire to interact effectively with one's environment, to identify with the target, the cooperative organization here, and to benefit from a space that is both more privileged and secured. Such a feeling facilitates and accentuates cohesion between members, particularly when a collective sense of psychological ownership exists. The development of a collective sense of ownership requires a shared feeling between two or more people, as well as shared beliefs and knowledge. These conditions are satisfied when the roots for developing this feeling are activated, namely the exercise of control over the organization through the rules of democracy, intimate knowledge of the object, cooperative organization in this case, using cooperative education and the associative practices, self-investment through participation in social capital, in power by means of assemblies and the election of representatives to the board of directors, to the sharing of overall results in proportion to the members' activities with the cooperative. Furthermore, as I mentioned earlier, the true meaning of cooperative ownership is perfectly in tune with the feeling of psychological ownership. As a result, the purpose of the cooperative organization can be centered on the primacy of the user's link, with members joining the cooperative to seek their benefits as users, not as investors. The cooperative purpose, thus understood, creates the conditions for members through their association to orient and control the cooperative enterprise. The resulting association enterprise cohesion is further facilitated by the cooperative rules, democratic control, the link of use, the collective reserve, and the surplus sharing, creating the conditions for collective rights and responsibilities required for the emergence of this feeling of collective psychological ownership. In terms of the enterprise market cohesion, the added value for both the member and the cooperative associated with the feeling of psychological ownership reinforce this third level of cohesion. As I demonstrated in my third video, cooperatives have a significant strategic advantage in implementing such a strategy. So, when viewed from the angle of psychological ownership, individual and collective, horizontal alignment is strategic. The result can lead to a greater member engagement and participation. Now, what can we learn from the value co-creation strategy? The concept of value co-creation and customer engagement is gaining ground because information and communication systems are available on an international scale at virtually zero transaction cost. These systems lead to a significant increase in interactions between customers and the enterprise. The result of these transformations is new self-perception on the part of the customer, who is no longer passive but can become a co-producer. The infusion of new technologies into the customer-enterprise relationship is redefining the roles customers play in innovation and value creation. The customer's influence on value creation has never been greater, and it can extend to all facets of the value chain, as well as to the components of the business model as markets transform into forums. As a result, the roles of customers and enterprise are becoming increasingly blurred. Users can participate in content creation as well as in product development. They can also support each other in using the product, promote products, services, and/or brands to other customers. Value co-creation requires enterprise to evolve from a closed system to a collaborative environment dedicated to the creation of reciprocal value for the network of partners and the community of consumers. There is therefore a growing interest in the possibility of involving customers in co-production or co-creation to improve business performance and the value proposition. The implementation of this strategy relies on the democratization of the value creation process, as well as on a high degree of interactivity and connectivity between the enterprise and its customers. Added to this is the importance of customer attachment to the enterprise. This strategy also requires a rebalancing of knowledge and skills between the enterprise and its customers. Implementing a co-creation strategy requires a degree of preparation and the ability to maintain a dialogue with customers on themes of common interest. Successful implementation also requires the management of a dynamic group of these same customers. Unlike a private enterprise, which must bring together its customers in this co-creation exercise, such a structure already exists for the cooperative, which is an association of people who own an enterprise. What's more, the rules to facilitate its governance are explicit in its distinct nature and structure. Let's briefly recall that the creation of the cooperative is itself an act of co-creation, with members recognizing a common shared problem, while the creation of the enterprise is intended to be the solution. Therefore, these key conditions are at the heart of a co-creation strategy. When activated, it facilitates and reinforces cohesion between members, as well as cohesion between the association of members and the enterprise. Finally, the enterprise market cohesion is accentuated in the context of a co-creation strategy when cooperative members become co-creators, co-producers, and have an impact on the value creation process through the value chain and or the cooperative business model. So from a management perspective, just like the strategy based on psychological ownership, this value of co-creation strategy is a lever for developing, maintaining, and reinforcing horizontal alignment, a key pillar of this cooperative equilibrium. In so doing, both the psychological ownership strategy and the value co-creation strategy support and reinforce the three levels of cohesion on which horizontal alignment is built. Such alignment must therefore be perceived and managed as a strategic lever. The result is greater engagement and participation on the part of members. Finally, in my next video, I will complete my presentation of this cooperative equilibrium model, focusing on vertical alignment, that is values and purpose alignment, the cooperative business model, and the balanced scorecard. The strategies of value congruence, psychological ownership, loyalty, and value co-creation related to this vertical alignment will also be discussed. Thank you for listening.